Hello, my name is Dave Johnston, and this presentation is about the commonalities between leadership models of the past and present. This study had set out to discern the common beneficial elements of past and present leadership models. I also investigated why these aspects continued as part of various leadership models in practice today, and how they're utilized in various organizations to reinforce positivity and production within and outside the workforce. In brief, let's take a look at the very concept of leadership via its purpose, regardless of where leadership disciplines are practiced. The purpose of leadership is to build up the team's morale, unite the team to operate as a single unit, and proceed as one unit to accomplish the mission's objectives and/or goals set before them. Some interesting takeaways from this research came from a 2019 study by Hunt and Fedenich, in which they discovered that prior to the 14th century CE, leadership was not part of any culture's vocabulary, and leadership itself was believed to be one of three things: an inherent trait that someone was born with, a thing based on meandering experience, or a product of one's opportunism. Regardless, according to a 2020 study by Baloyi, leadership and its styles are a practice as old as humanity itself and remain to this day to be a vital component in all organizations worldwide. According to a 2016 study by Lapina, there are 5 primary leadership models, which are the models from which all other secondary, tertiary, and variation models developed. To cover these in brief, the first one is authentic leadership. According to Paulus in 2017 and Cruz in 2013, it's a style that involves having the drive and passion to lead, leading by example, and demonstrating transparency and self-discipline in order to encourage those being led. Second one is situational leadership, in which the leader requires multiple talents and skills to deal with various ordeals. According to a study in 2014 and by Cruz in 2019, situational leaders not only make their skill set malleable to their respective organization, but they also base this malleability on the goal that must be achieved, also on the teammates under their command, and their required approach or methodology that that particular situation calls for. In servant leadership, this requires bestowing autonomy onto teammates. Per a couple of studies, one by Mejia et al. And one by Tarallo, both in 2018, servant leadership seeks to have the leader put the teammates above themselves, instilling personal accountability within each of them, empowering them with individual leadership, helping them grow both professionally and personally. Holistic leadership is basically the maintenance of emotional stability and transference of enthusiasm. Although not as popular, though according to a 2016 study by Funk, holistic leadership is considered the incorporation of the mind, body, and spirit into the implementation of one's leadership-based values. Lastly, charismatic leadership requires being extremely communicative and inspirational to the team. Charismatic leaders inspire followers to further develop their talents for the benefit of the organization, aligning the desires of teammates with the mission statement of the organization. They not only inspire teammates, but also manage to elicit drive and passion from within those that they lead. They also convey their authority with the flexibility of being personable yet rigid, so as not to sacrifice their position as leader of the team. Concerning secondary models, athletic leadership is practiced in sports teams, in various athletic teams, professional and otherwise, as a leadership role of formal or informal leadership taken on by one of the athletes within their respective team or group, based on the mutual desire of the team to acknowledge their responsibilities of fair play, teamwork, and perseverance in pursuit of victory against opposing teams, indicative of charismatic leadership. Team-oriented leadership was designed to increase employee productivity, engagement, and satisfaction through frequent coaching and daily encouragement, aligning the workers with the overarching long-term mission of the organization. Country club leadership, like team-oriented leadership, teaches a leader to utilize even more frequent means of making the workers feel highly valued, except that it is to persuade their workers and teams to accomplish short-term objectives of the organization instead of long-term goals. Transactional leadership is an exchange-based relationship between the leader and the follower, where the leader rewards the worker for doing excellent work. As they might lose their direction within the organization, that is balanced out with the utilization of transformational leadership, which trains leaders to encourage their workers to think positively about their performance at work, helping to alleviate their stress, boost their morale, and increasing their feelings of self-worth. Through synergy, both transactional and transformational leadership styles can be combined to form dual leadership, utilizing both the rewarding aspect of transactional leadership and the empowering trait of transformational leadership. Concerning tertiary models, democratic leadership inspires the workers to go above and beyond the base expectations of workplace goals while promoting ethics and standards, but not at the expense of the leader's position of authority. The laissez-faire model encourages autonomy among the workforces, tends to be practiced among practitioners of skilled labor, i.e. journeyman welders, senior engineers, lead salespersons, or registered nurses. The lack of presence from the leaders could result in leaders being seen as unimportant and not taken as seriously as official leaders within their own organization. Bureaucratic and autocratic leadership styles are remarkably similar in their traits, as both models portray a complete lack of flexibility between leaders and workers. Bureaucratic leadership ensures the workers abide by the rules and regulations of the organization to a T, eliminating creativity from the workforce. Autocratic leadership ensures that the workers have no real say when it comes to offering suggestions to management about their working conditions. These two models, bureaucratic and autocratic, are best utilized over jobs that require minimal planning and no specific skill set, such as mundane manual labor. Both of these models resemble basic leadership in that the workers are obligated to follow the one in charge, absent questioning or suggestions. Collective leadership inspires several individuals to work together in a leaderless group, making decisions on their own, involving more constructive dynamic interactions between group members. It tends to involve distributing equal leadership and responsibilities to all group members, similar to servant leadership. Ethical leadership is based on the presence of hope and optimism in the workplace, in the form of a leader that presents hope and optimism to their workers. In that hope and optimism ought to serve as expectations from leaders onto workers in order to create a more positive working environment, inspiring leaders and workers alike to follow through with their organization's mission statement and goals. Concerning the business and government sectors, the decision-making and sole leadership aspects of the business, aka IBM model, resemble autocratic leadership. In 2020, Euchner interviewed Stefan Tomka, one who has studied companies and their business experiments at great length. And according to Tomka, in order for that company, in this case IBM, to pursue a different goal not in tandem with the current line of experimentation, the leader must put systems and resources required in their rightful place for future growth and or sustainability while being a role model to others within the organization. Concerning the nonprofit model of Romania, it operates under the Romanian nonprofit government's model and was supposed to play a significant positive role when it came to the relationship between the people, as well as the merging of the autocratic and bureaucratic styles of government. In this particular leadership model, 1/3 of all company decisions are made autocratically by their organization's executive director, 1/3 of the decisions are made bureaucratically by the board, 1/6 are made bureaucratically by their General Assembly, and 1/6 of the remaining decisions give the rest of the organization a limited say. Concerning the new democracy style practiced in Poland and in other various portions of the Central Eastern European area, the elected politicians in Poland encourage the involvement of the citizens concerning the governance of their respective countries. Finding out that the Polish local government has an autocratic political leadership along with a bureaucratic ruling council to serve as a legislative branch in order to avoid autocratic corruption. Both the autocracy and bureaucracy of the Polish government serve the people and play a major part in community development, making all the major governmental decisions for, in this case, the entire country of Poland. The democratic government organizations replace traditional leadership models with a collective leadership model, in this case the Nordic model, in that the country of Finland utilizes collective leadership through utilizing the Nordic model, which in and of itself is a form of distributed complex leadership between both local and state authorities. The local government of Finland serves as a branch of community service and outreach. It also serves the people on a level of consensus in order to avoid conflict and unrest. In this regard, the state government is perceived as more powerful than the local government, as the state government has the ability to overreach and overrule the validity of the local government within Finland. Concerning the administrative model, it imbues leaders with intuition and perspective required to identify and manage failed government operations and administrative setbacks in the public sector, demonstrating practices of situational and authentic leadership. It teaches leaders strategic planning, innovation, as well as encouraging civil workers in the public sector to pursue leadership themselves. And it certainly condemns handling teamwork-oriented situations alone without help, teaching the necessity of teamwork in completing tasks within the government sector. In the field of education, the various leadership models utilized in education systems worldwide, particularly within universities, resemble transformational leadership in that the leaders frequently coach and encourage continuous improvement for students by placing greater responsibilities on both students and school employees, preparing both for leadership roles and responsibilities in the near future. Every leadership model utilized by teachers and the educational faculty have been beneficial and knowledge-growing benefits to offer those who train under them. Unfortunately, leadership models that are no longer updated are still being used in education systems worldwide. Concerning the academic model, this combines the skills development trait of transformational leadership and the self-reflection aspect of holistic leadership. The importance of utilizing academic leadership for the development of academic faculties and keeping up with the progressive culture of the modern day is of paramount concern. The academic leadership development model was designed to not only teach leadership on a tech-savvy progressive level, but to also build new frameworks for the inclusion of all beliefs and interests within the academic community. The freedom behavior model emphasizes a greater degree of teacher-student interaction, requiring the teacher to speak to the student as more of an equal than a pupil. This study of this particular leadership model revealed the effectiveness, where the student was given less frequent tasks and more face-to-face explanations about the tasks, along with a degree of autonomy to conduct certain tasks unsupervised. This utilized the empowerment trait from authentic leadership and the encouragement facet of granting autonomy from servant and transformational leadership. Concerning the area of religion, servant leadership is most prominent within Christianity, as is authentic leadership most prominent within Islam. From a traditionally Christian perspective, servant leadership involves being a leader through their respective Christian faith by serving one's community, institution, or organization, enabling the followers to unite under their leader's vision and inspiring them to make it so. Christian leaders seek to inspire a number of values, such as moral integrity, spiritual sensitivity, purpose, personal wellness, and a passion for teaching. A social interactional case was made for servant leadership within the story that is found in Mark chapter 7 verses 24 through 30, where the story was contrasted with leadership practices of maintaining an unbiased perspective when helping others, bringing the most pressing issues to the forefront, decision-making in urgent situations, and therefore suggesting that beneficial traits of any leadership model should involve the wisdom to teach the leader in training to practice humility, produce remarkable results, be credible, and to be motivational. The Muslim community takes a different approach in that they utilize authentic leadership. They consider it to be the most optimal and amiable within Islam and its followers, mainly when it comes to living by example and passing this wisdom down from leader to the followers, in which they seek authenticity, in that they believe authenticity emerges from interaction between leaders and followers, acknowledging the symbiotic relationship therein as a reciprocal process, because leaders affect followers and followers affect leaders. The effectiveness of authentic leadership is best portrayed if both the leader and followers understand their place and the duties involved within their respective Islamic hierarchies. Authentic leaders in Islam, similar to those outside of Islam live by example as a demonstration of their authentic leadership by practicing what they preach. Studies had shown that followers of Islam that distance themselves from the concept of deceit and malevolence are considered both models of their ideology and truly authentic leaders, whereas followers and practitioners of Islam consider those who are not true authentic leaders as fools, unable to understand right from wrong. In the field of healthcare, the physician model is utilized to examine and process critical areas of operation for their goals, such as training, community outreach, customer satisfaction, and participation. This was done in order initially to increase the supply of organs for patients awaiting transplants. They had achieved their model implementation goal, securing more healthy organs for those in need of transplants than before. In 2023, the expansion upon the physician leadership model was implemented in the form of the 3C model, which stands for character, competence, and commitment. Character was based on the leader's sense of integrity and courage. Competence involved the leader's skill sets and field of knowledge, and commitment referred to the motivation needed to continue to develop one's leadership. Shared leadership uses a combination of qualitative and quantitative analyses in order to fabricate how the stakeholders perceive an effective leader, understand the basis of leadership, and which competencies are of paramount concern when it comes to leadership. The shared leadership model is composed of the core principles and competencies of patient-centeredness, integrity, teamwork, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and selfless service, with the potential to take leadership research to higher levels. The LEADS framework was developed in Australia, in which they wish to develop their own teamwork-based healthcare leadership model. LEADS is an acronym that stands for leading oneself, engaging others, achieving results, developing coalitions, and systems transformation. LEADS frameworks identifies individuals capable of filling positions of leadership with utmost efficiency within the healthcare field, and amid its inception was used in determining if the leadership required to change regulations that limit medical abortion liberties was attainable. The Ottawa Model of Implementation Leadership, or OMILE model, is considered instrumental in the field of healthcare according to its rating on the Implementation Leadership Scale, or ILS, as it encourages supportive work environments and the implementation of evidence-based practices for patient care, as it is empirically validated for measuring implementation leadership utilizing three categories of effective leadership behaviors: relations-oriented, change-oriented, and task-oriented. OMILE is used in tandem with ILS, in which ILS serves as a methodology for determining the reliability of a leadership model. ILS has the beneficial implementation leadership characteristics of proactivity, knowledgeability, encouragement, and perseverance. OMILE and ILS used together provide a reliable basis for measuring an individual's leadership levels and workmanship potential in the field of healthcare. My analysis had shown, as we can see here, the most common positive trait among the primary leadership models was the need for a relationship between the leader and their employees or teammates. The establishment of this relationship varies between leadership models, but this does give each of the styles a unique place in leadership training within multiple professions worldwide. Each of the secondary and tertiary model characteristics can be traced back to a primary model. This demonstrates how the foundation of the primary models had given way to the development of more profession-specific styles. The most common positive traits among secondary and tertiary models seem to be inspiration and encouragement, both common to charismatic leadership. There were multiple examples of secondary and tertiary models found within the variation models. There, however, was no secondary or tertiary semblance that was more common than any other. The most common model semblances were that of the autocratic, transformational, team-oriented, and dual leadership models. The most common characteristic of the primary leadership models was the need for a leader-follower relationship. This type of empowerment derived from the leader-follower relationship varied between the 5 primary models. It is used as the epicenter of the Venn diagram we see here. This diagram demonstrates the relationships between all analyzed primary, secondary, tertiary, and variation models. The crossovers represent the link between all primary and secondary models, between primary and tertiary models, and between the variation and their respective secondary or tertiary models. The leadership models of current day are indicative of having been built upon beneficial aspects of past leadership models. They also demonstrated discarding flaws and detrimental facets that were ethically obsolete and illogical. Utilizing a mixed qualitative-quantitative analysis of several successful leadership models from the past decade portrayed a few similarities between them. The remaining similarities were uncommon between a major or minor leadership style and its updated profession-specific variant. There were few beneficial aspects discovered that leadership models between 2010 and 2023 have in common, and there were, of course, limitations. Concerning profession limitations, the variety of leadership models investigated demonstrated the different approaches required when leading a team, department, or organization. This study is limited to the number of industries and professions analyzed based on their leadership models. Construction, healthcare, and the computer industry are all vast, complex professions with unique means of dealing with situations requiring leadership. There remain many professions requiring leadership that were not covered in this study, such as law enforcement, the military, cinematography departments, and environmental activist groups. The style of leadership required varies between most organizations and professions. The professions that were not covered are numerous and too many to be included in this study. Concerning demographics, the countries mentioned as leadership model examples in this analysis were the United States, China, Poland, Finland, and Canada. Each country has its own unique approach to leadership and its numerous styles, so the study is limited in that every country has their own unique leadership styles and therefore could not be analyzed. Coverage of multiple countries and their signature leadership models will require future research. The model numbers were limited. Multiple major leadership models and their successors from 2010 to 2023 were covered in this study. However, not all models over the past 13 years could be researched and analyzed. Only the leadership styles of note were covered in this review. The variety of professions and organizations demonstrate that each and every one has their own leadership model or variation of a major leadership model. Covering every single type of leadership model is simply not possible. Concerning the chronology, the major and minor leadership models that were analyzed were between the years of 2010 and 2023, current year. There were models developed before 2010 that were successful, but going further past to 2010 would yield too many leadership models. This time frame was chosen to provide comparative insight without analyzing numerous leadership styles, as future research projects have the potential to utilize a 20 or even 30-year window. According to the results, among all 25 primary, secondary, tertiary, and variation leadership models analyzed in this study, there was one commonality among them. This was the requirement for a solid, stable leader-follower relationship, as no leadership model, regardless of its hierarchy, is remotely feasible without it. It is from a strong and enduring leader-follower relationship that the 5 main traits of leadership itself can manifest, and from there fabricate the 5 primary leadership models. The most prominent trait found within the authentic leadership model is long-term focus, a vital leadership component within both the administrative and democratic models, traceable back to the authentic leadership model. The second most prominent facet that can be traced back to the authentic model is encouragement, found within the country club, administrative, and omile models. Other characteristics, i.e. task-oriented autonomy, developing leadership skills, etc., were far too infrequent and lacking in being commonplace within authentic leadership. Two traits were found within a couple of non-primary models linked back to the situational model. One of those traits is short-term focus, one of two vital components that make up the country club leadership model. The second facet that can be traced back is informally taking charge, the very foundation of the athletic model. The most prominent aspect found within the leadership model tree that led back to servant leadership was the granting of autonomy. This facet is a main component that makes up both transformational and laissez-faire models. Furthermore, autonomy is one of the foundations of servant leadership itself. Stemming from the transformational model, autonomy is also utilized within the freedom behavior model for students in a task-oriented variation. The second aspect is a variation of autonomy taking the form of leadership distribution, which is the very foundation of both the collective and Nordic models. The other facets of self-worth and leadership skills development were far too infrequent and lacking in being commonplace within servant leadership. The most prominent trait found within the holistic leadership model were a couple of variations of macroscopic problem solving. These variations came in the form of utilizing broader perspectives, as is found in physician leadership, and critical thinking, which is vital to shared leadership. From these two variation models, macroscopic problem solving can be traced further to the tertiary model of dual leadership. The remaining aspects, integrity, selflessness, patient-centeredness, etc., were more profession-specific, more secondary and tertiary model specific than being able to qualify as a commonality among all leadership models within the holistic leadership model tree. These leftover facets were each of them specific to the dual, physician, and shared models. The strongest trait found within the charismatic leadership model tree, as well as the very ability of charisma itself, is inspiration. The facet of inspiration takes the form of motivation within the LEADS framework model. It also turned out that inspiration can be traced back to the very fabric of the leader-follower relationship in the form of motivation, one of the key components in the makeup of the charismatic leadership model. Inspiration also assumes the form of the portrayal of the leader's vision within the autocratic and business IBM models, as well as the bureau's vision per the bureaucratic and Romanian nonprofit models. The second strongest aspect within charismatic leadership is encouragement. This facet can be found within the makeup of the country club, team-oriented, and administrative models. The remaining characteristics, i.e. constant communication, ratio of leaders' decision-making, board's decision-making, etc., were more secondary or tertiary model specific than being able to qualify as a commonality among all leadership models that stem from the charismatic model. These leftover aspects were each of them specific to the autocratic, bureaucratic, Romanian, nonprofit, and LEADS framework models. So to conclude, the greatest commonality among any and all leadership models is a stable yet malleable leader-follower relationship. Many leadership theories between the 14th and 21st centuries CE had suggested that other traits were required to make a leader, such as high energy, intelligence, faith, or competence in one or more fields of expertise. My study, however, demonstrated that a person cannot be considered a leader if the leader-follower relationship is more forced on by authoritative figures rather than accepted by followers themselves. This is based on the majority of all leadership models within this study showing more commonality with the charismatic leadership model and second most commonality with the authentic leadership model than any other leadership model, be it primary, secondary, tertiary, or variation. Within the charismatic model, this was represented via the aspects of inspiration and encouragement. Within the authentic model, this can come in the form of either empowering the followers to pursue a cause worthy of their time or instilling drive and passion similar to what motivates the leader themselves. Despite their prominence in their respective areas of workplace versatility, the situational, servant, and holistic models had the fewest commonalities among all secondary, tertiary, and variation models. Their various aspects, although useful and respectable in their own fields, failed to prove commonplace among most leadership models and were too model-specific to be considered traits of commonality. So I have a total of 4 thoughts of future research. First, future researchers could investigate other leadership models not covered in this study. Our societal and ethical atmosphere within human civilization progresses and evolves with every decade. Second, some models may grow and develop with the times while others become outdated and are therefore discarded. Third, leadership models researched in this study had only come from a minority of countries in the world, i.e., the United States, Canada, China, Finland, and Romania. Future research could look into other countries that may have leadership models that could replace our current models. Fourth, while the results of this study have proven the need for a leader-follower relationship as the groundwork for any leadership model, future studies could perhaps expand on the usefulness of encouragement and inspiration, finding an even greater substitute for these aspects, and thus forging an even greater model of leadership, more desirable than even charismatic leadership. The program courses most beneficial to my study are as follows. The seminar in Human Resource Management offered a leadership perspective from a human resource position, which helped increase my understanding of how leadership styles and models may be perceived from a basis of societal ethics and morality. Leadership and motivation enabled me to better understand the appropriateness of leadership styles in different situations, the central issues in work motivation relative to leadership, and the motivational techniques used by leaders and managers in organizations. This class helped me discern a better understanding of what leadership styles, approaches, and behaviors are best suited in the workplace, regardless of the industry or field involved. In using teams to facilitate organizational development, I learned methodologies behind organizational development, the basic levels of team leadership, and what it means to be a team leader. This class also showed me how to look for the needs for better leadership in organizations and leadership potential in other organizations as well. In leading organizational transformation, this class showed how an organization depends on its ability to adapt to changes in its operational environment, and that each employee of an organization must understand and be willing to do their part to maintain organizational viability. It also helped provide me with the knowledge and skills necessary to plan, implement, and monitor organizational transformations, particularly in the form of helping leaders diagnose the need for modifications to various implementation procedures so that the organization can effectively transform itself. In professional environment issues and ethics, this class portrayed the ethical side of leadership and explained the need for order and structure in the professional world. Investigating these issues aided in better understanding the ethical extents to which leadership should be applied in any organization. It also had shown me that being a trustworthy leader involves innumerable standards and practices to which the leader must abide by to remain fair and ethical. In statistical analysis, this class had shown me how to calculate statistical variables, read experimental data and analyses, and understand the results and conclusions of scholarly articles containing empirical data. This class had shown me that no leadership model is perfect and must be either updated regularly or discarded in order to make room for a more updated and logical model. And concerning my current and future career goals, I'm looking forward to utilizing what I have learned and studied to offer more input at my workplace for better leadership practices, obtaining future leadership opportunities either at my current workplace or other workplaces so that I can put my research into practice and hopefully move up the ladder of leadership, obtaining perhaps a corporate position one day. And that's it for this presentation. Thank you very much for listening.